Today, I'm gonna try to make the smoothest hyperlapse from the Emirates airline, and all I'm gonna use is my phone to do that. Plenty of videos from the Emirates airline cable car in Greenwich Peninsula, and some people even tried to do some form of hyperlapse, and I've not seen to this date one hyperlapse on the cable car that if I shot it I would be happy with that. So today I'm gonna change that. I'm trying to make a super smooth motion with blur of long exposure frames hyperlapse from the cable car. And yes, I got a full bag of things actually, not for no reason. One thing is to hold this camera and the tripod, but I'm not going to be using this camera. However, in the bag, I've got some equipment that will help me make that time-lapse, hyperlapse actually, more stable, more smooth, because as you can see, the cable cars, they move and wiggle as they traverse through some of the towers. They move sideways, they bounce a little bit forward. It's not as bad as you might think, but I'm trying to stabilize it and make it smooth. Okay, so first things first, if you want to be shooting some sort of a time-lapse, hyperlapse, you probably should get permission, and this is exactly what I didn't get. So the security, when I was filming closer to the cable car terminal, told me I have to move and not use professional equipment, which this more or less and a tripod apparently is. So as my plan was to film from inside the cable car cabin just with my phone, it should be okay. I might still get told off for using what I'm planning to use with the phone anyway, but we'll get onto that later. So, in order to traverse the cable car, you might as well buy the single or return ticket, which is £9, and I do not recommend you to do that. What you should get instead is the multi-pass that for £17, you actually get 10 journeys, so you can go 5 times there and back. Definitely works out much better at £1.70 per journey than the £4.50. How is it that I actually want the hyperlapse to look? Obviously, I want the smooth hyperlapse, time-lapse motion being motion blur applied to every frame. I want good quality, so at least 4K. I want to minimize the shake by the cable car, forward, backward, or sideways. I want the full journey, so setup time once I get in to the cable car and immediately start rolling is also important, and be able to get off when I need to get off. And obviously, knowing that using professional equipment is not allowed, I want to get away with using the equipment that I want to use with my iPhone to achieve this result. One last obstacle, obviously I'll be shooting behind a window, and I know that the windows at the cable car aren't of the best quality, kind of like plexi kind of window. They're scratched, they can be dirty, so in order to avoid that, if I was to shoot in a professional way, I would shoot with my full frame camera and use a wide aperture with a focus on infinity. That would sort of get away of all the dirt and scratches that are really close to the camera. Shooting with an iPhone that's got a very small sensor, especially shooting in the wide 13mm view, well, that's going to be visible, so I know that I cannot overcome that. And to overcome reflections, I will use a Lenskirt that you've probably seen in my previous videos, one from the Shard. If you want to check out that video here, is pretty cool. I explain how I use the Lenskirt, and today I will try to put the phone inside the Lenskirt to avoid reflections. With regards to minimizing wobble, even on the iPhone does quite well when it shoots in video. It kind of stabilizes the footage anyway, but using the Moment app that applies the motion blur to every frame it saves by compiling, I think, 30 seconds of video into one single frame, and it does that continuously throughout the time lapse. It does not stabilize as far as I know, so I will be using a Vlog Pocket gimbal. I will also try to not hold it, but actually stick it onto the window and then screw this so that it would stay in one place. So what this will prevent is the gimbal will prevent any shake going sideways as well as forward. However, there's also one problem with that. if I will mount the phone normally so I can see the screen, it will be actually quite far away from the window because this element sticks out. And the further you are from the window, the more the camera will see of the dirt and the scratches on the window. So I'm thinking actually to set everything up in the time-lapse and then put the phone in reverse and just be able to press record on the phone while the gimbal will be stabilizing, but the lens will be still very close to the window. And I will leave a little bit of space just in case the cable car moves forward or backwards so that the gimbal will be able to apply this motion and still not hit the window and be blocked by the window. And this is really the tricky part, because I think if I rock up like this with that in my hand onto the cable car, they will straight away turn me down and say, no, this is professional equipment, you can't use that. So what I will have to do, and I might only have one go at it, is have everything in my bag somewhat ready, get into the cable car and quickly assemble this, stick it to the window and start rolling. This will probably prevent me from shooting the full journey, but I hope I will at least start everything rolling before I get to the first tower. So I get the middle section and then going down towards the third tower and onto Silvertown Terminal. And if you think about it, doing it the professional way, having a pro-size gimbal for my mirrorless Z6 on the suction cup would be looking way over the top, and I would definitely be told off for using it without permission, which I might try to actually get at some point in the future and tell them what I'm trying to do based on this video, and then we'll try the professional way of shooting that hyperlapse. We'll see, but for now we're gonna do it on the phone and try to get the best result. And that's it. That's all the planning that I figured out to get this shot looking somewhat decent. And now let's do it. But as they already told me off, I'm pretty sure that I won't be using this camera. So all the other shots from now on, you will see just on my iPhone, any behind the scenes, because they know I'm not supposed to use this camera. Let's get on with it. Let's jump onto the first trip on the cable car. Let's do this! Okay, I'm on the other side. I just exported the sequence from the Moment app into a 4K. Even though I shot maximum resolution, I only can export 4K because the iPhone can only save a 4K file. The maximum resolution, which will be a 4:3 kind of a resolution, I can only airdrop directly to the computer. So the 4K looks absolutely amazing. I love how it turned out. And I know I actually made two small mistakes, which I will now try to improve. I didn't set the lock on the gimbal to not move, but it was still in the sort of tracking movement. So even despite that, that looked absolutely amazing. And I didn't put the Lenskirt inside the phone, sort of like through the gimbal. I just put it around the gimbal, but I didn't see any reflections. But that was because I was shooting with the sun. I guess if I was to go now back south on the cable car, if I don't put it right, there would be reflections. But I absolutely love how this turned out. Well, I guess you deserve to see how it looks, at least this first attempt that I did just now. And here it is. With just warp stabilizer thrown in, with no settings being changed, now this looks absolutely amazing. There was a few bumps here and there that warp stabilizer smoothed. I don't like how when it crosses the towers the horizon changes a little bit, but you know what? This is actually quite nice. Now time to go and do the south trip, and I'll try to remember to not make the two mistakes that I did on the north trip, so it should be even better. And we're going back south. back on the south side on the Greenwich Peninsula, and I see that locking the gimbal didn't quite work out. All the gimbal was bouncing and touching inside the lenskirts. Something just didn't go wrong. It tried to move right and it just was bouncing left, so that didn't quite work out. Now I'm gonna try to do a north trip again, but this time around I'm gonna set up a time-lapse on the left window, so it's gonna be panning with it, and I'm gonna sort of angle it towards Canary Wharf. I'm not quite sure how this side view will work out. I don't have great expectations against it, but the one thing that I do know is to shoot towards Canary Wharf, you best do it going north, because the line is on the left, so you will not be blocked by the other cars or the towers in between. Quick 4K export from the Moment app, and let's see what we got. Ooh, that is looking good. Yeah, there's a little bit of bumps, a few bumps along the way, but it still worked out much better to what I thought that the side view in wide angle 13mm will work out. I am pretty chuffed with that result. For a side view in this wide angle, I'm pretty happy with that. How it looks is literally how I wanted it to look. There's this one little bump when crossing this museum, but overall, I'm happy. Now let's go back to south direction, but shoot again without the gimbal in locked mode, because that doesn't seem to work out. So just leaving the gimbal not locked is what seems to be better and smoother, because if I lock it, it seems to want to move to the right and then bounces back left. Let's not have that. Let's redo the wide angle 13mm time-lapse going south and hope that this time it will be actually better. And I'm back on the south side, and this hyperlapse going from north to south worked out so much better. However, there was this one little problem. There was this dirt speck dot thing on the left side of the hyperlapse that kept on moving because the cart was moving and the gimbal was trying to stabilize it, so it just like goes jumpy up and down, up and down. Unfortunately, it is what it is. With a small sensor that an iPhone has, I just can't avoid it. With a large sensor and a wide open aperture, this would not be visible, but with an iPhone, unfortunately it is. Still, I'm quite happy how it worked out. Definitely much better than the first attempt when the gimbal was in locked mode. Now nothing moves right and bumps back left, and warp stabilizer dealt with the small little bumps quite well in here, again with no settings in warp stabilizer being changed. I've got time for one last flight there and back, so I'm gonna try to shoot with the 1x and maybe even the 2x lens on the iPhone and see if I can get that kind of a hyperlapse and how it looks really. Set everything up. I assembled everything, put everything together, wanted to do a 2x telephoto time-lapse going forward, hyperlapse, and after setting everything up, it somehow didn't record. I'm sure I pressed the start time-lapse, but yeah, that didn't work out. So last time-lapse, we're gonna do the 2x telephoto mode towards the sort of city and Canary Wharf skyline. Let's see how that works out. So I just exported the 2x time-lapse, hyperlapse, shot towards Canary Wharf, and this is what it looks like. Not the best result. Seems like hyperlapse is on a gimbal, on a cable car that seems to be wobbling most of the time, at best when shot wide. It's not something that surprises me, but I tried to push the boundary and try a 2x, because 2x, just telephoto hyperlapses, to me look absolutely incredible. So I added warp stabilizer and it's somewhat usable, but yeah, not the best. So at least gave it a go and just didn't work out. Maybe I'll try some other ways to get it done in the future. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you believe that this wide angle hyperlapse on the cable car worked out quite well, and that it is the smoothest hyperlapse from the London cable car you've ever seen. If not, yeah, I failed. Hopefully, I like it. I like how it turned out. So I didn't. Leave it a like, comment where would you imagine shooting a cool hyperlapse from, and yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.